Student Live, Student Voices is being brought to you as a service of Ken Stopel Ford, Central Texas Electric Co-op, Totality Over Texas, Vogel Tractors, Joseph Financial Partners, Medical Arts Pharmacy, and Celebrity Care Medical Clinic.
Welcome to Student Live, Student Voices, a production of HC Broadcasting and KNAF AM 910. This series encourages conversations about the topics that matter to young people and the issues that affect them. Our goal is to engage students in these conversations as well as in the solutions created. Time now for Student Lives, Student Voices. This episode of Student Lives, Student Voices consists mainly of an interview between moderator Steve Maxwell and Detective Nick Krupa, an investigator for the Kerr County Attorney's Office. Segments 1 and most of 2 are the interview in its entirety, edited lightly for clarity. This interview provides real-world context for some of the research and comments we heard in earlier episodes. In the remainder of this episode, we'll draw together information from today's and prior interviews, as well as research, to bring the series information on the legal implications of bullying into full focus.
I'm talking tonight with Nicholas Krupa. He's a detective for the Kerr County. Is it the prosecutor's office that you work for?
Yes, sir. I'm the investigator for the Kerr County Attorney's Office.
Okay, and how long have you been in Kerr County?
I moved over there October of 2022.
2022. Where had you been before that?
I was with Gillespie County Prosecutor's Office from 2017 to 2022, and then before that I worked for the Houston Police Department, and then a little while before that I worked for the Missouri City Police Department, which is a suburb southwest of Houston.
Wow, how long were you with the Houston PD?
11 years.
Wow. And were you a patrol officer there? Or
I started out on patrol. After a short time on patrol, I ended up on a gang task force. Then I went over to a TAC unit, which is kind of like the equivalent of a bigger department, call them a street crimes unit.
Oh.
From there, I went to Major Offenders Division. My first assignment there was working police impersonations, which was a bunch of different offenses that we investigated. And then I went to a fugitive unit, and shortly after that, I ended up in the homicide division in the special investigations unit.
Well, the reason we brought Nick on with us this evening is we want to get his wisdom for our bullying show, Student Lives, Student Voices, and he's agreed to have a little banter back and forth about his experiences. And the first question I had, Nick, is have you had any cases involving bullying that have risen to the level of a misdemeanor crime? Have you seen any of that?
Yes, there are lots of it, because in order really for law enforcement to get involved, it's going to be something that's already gotten to the level of an actual crime. Something beyond just the pulling of the pigtails on the girls at school, or even, pushing a boy into a locker is still a Class C assault, but most of that will be handled at the school level. But we've seen them go literally all the way from Class C assault by contacts to investigate a hate crime before that was tied to bullying.
Oh, wow. Was that, can you mention what county that was in? Or
That was a local case, and I don't know the complete and utter status of it, so the particular details were, long and short, it was a young man was targeted for his sexual orientation.
Yeah, we've in my research, I've seen a lot of that. Have you seen anything that's risen to the level of a felony crime?
That particular incident did, and most of them, if they're not stopped and intervention from law enforcement or school or community doesn't happen, it'll go from a misdemeanor to a felony if you let it go too long.
Yeah, I think that's one thing a lot of these students and a lot of these kids don't understand, that what may seem fun to them can actually rise to the level of a crime, and it can actually affect them for the rest of their lives. And I think that's one of the importance of talking about this. Have you had any notable experiences or contact with somebody that has been a bully that maybe you were able to help out of his situation, or somebody maybe that was a target of bullying that you were able to help get out of a situation? Or
Yes, sir. As far as the kids that are the bullies, if we get them involved in the criminal justice system, typically what happens is they're put on probation through a juvenile probation office. What that does is allow the state, the prosecutor's office and the JPOs, to get involved in their life to maybe get them some corrective measures. It's no different than if we were dealing with an adult where we have some teeth or where we can get them. And it doesn't matter if it's counseling, schooling, after-school programs, whatever it takes to get that kid to stop doing what they're doing, because how they're acting at that young a life could go into later life.
Yeah, and that was really my next question. All the research we've done shows that there's a huge percentage of people that are incarcerated that at one time or another were bullied, or perhaps they were a victim or target of bullying. And we've seen that a lot, that a large percentage of people that are in jail had some experience with bullying. Maybe if somebody had caught them at a younger age, maybe they could have turned them around. Somebody that maybe if they had talked to someone or been able to get with a mentor of some type.
What happens with a kid that's being bullied, if it's not stopped, it affects their entire life. It affects their mental health. It affects their decision making. And what those kids go do is reach out in ways that are not always that productive. Gang members typically in the larger cities, those people are all forming together to really prevent themselves from being bullied from other gangs. Other kids will seek out substance abuse problems, could be drugs, alcohol, any of that stuff, because they're trying to cope with whatever's going wrong in their life. And then after that, they start making bad decision after bad decision, and things get worse.
Yeah. Well, one of the reasons we wanted to have this platform for people is to kind of give parents an idea or some information that they could use. What would you tell parents to look for in their kids with regard to bullying? Like what kind of attitude might that kid show? What kind of symptoms might that kid show at home that they might want to be on the lookout for?
Parents, if they're good parents, are going to know their kids better than anyone else. So when they come home and that child is exhibiting a different behavior than what's normal for them, and kids have different things that say are normal. One kid may be typically reserved and may be acting out a whole lot. One kid may be really loud and boisterous, and now all of a sudden he's super quiet and doesn't want to get involved in anything, doesn't want to go to any of his practices and things like that. The main thing is for parents to look out for that kind of stuff and having a good enough relationship with the kid where they can open up the conversation, talk to him about what's going on, and then address it through the schools. You know, if things are, most of these are going to happen at school. If they're able to address it through the schools, that's good. If not, and if a crime has been committed, well, then it's important for those parents to understand to not just brush it off, because it's not just something that kid is supposed to have to deal with. If a crime has been committed, it needs to be reported to law enforcement so corrective actions can be taken.
Yeah. If you had the opportunity, and let's say you could see into the future, what advice would you give a bully?
If I could grab everyone that's ever broken all the laws of the state of Texas when they were a young man and try to explain to them how much worse it's going to make their life going on. I've had conversations with kids before that were identified as bullies and really explaining to them everything you do in life has consequences. If you continue to act like this, and part of it's relaying to them, you're going to run into the wrong person who's not going to be easy for you to push over, and then it could be bad for you. The rest of it is really just trying to make a young man or young woman understand you're not supposed to treat people like this. It's going to reflect poorly on what everybody thinks of you, and would you want someone doing to you the same things, whatever. Kids are kids. Sometimes they're mean. That's part of it. But if it's an overall pattern, what I would like to explain to them is that you wouldn't want to be treated this way, and if you put yourself in that kid that you're bullying shoes, how would that affect you long term?
Yeah, kindness is one of the things that we've been running into. Kindness and grace, and just being kind to people can change not only the perspective for that target of bullying, but it can change the perspective for a bully. Just trying to be kind instead of what they've been doing, maybe change their behavior a little bit. Try it. You got nothing to lose by trying to be kind to somebody. What advice would you possibly give a target of bullying?
We'll be back with Detective Krupa's answer after this.
This is Steve Maxwell here at Texas Rebel Radio, and I want to talk to you just a second about Ken Stopel Ford in Kerrville. They're not just a great company to buy your next vehicle from or to get your vehicle serviced. The Stopels are deeply involved in the communities they serve. They give you their time and resources to Habitat for Humanity, Junior Livestock Scholarships, Kerr County Young Life, Harper and Medina Volunteer Fire Departments, Big Brothers and Big Sisters, the United Way, and many more. They touch every community in this listening area in some way. There are some good companies in our Texas Hill Country, but the one company that stands out as an advocate for all of us is Ken Stopel Ford. When you consider purchasing your next vehicle or servicing the ones you have, please give Ken Stopel Ford a chance to show you what they are all about: honesty, integrity, and a willingness to get involved in their Hill Country community. They have been Hill Country proud since 1966, and they would love nothing more than to prove it to you. Find them at stopelford.com.
CTEC is a proud sponsor of Student Life, Student Voices. From lighting up your homes to powering local businesses, we've been your reliable source of energy for over 75 years. But CTEC is not just about electricity. From sponsoring local school programs to supporting community events, Central Texas Electric Co-op is all about giving back. In fact, concern for community is one of our guiding principles. With every flip of the switch, we're working together to build a brighter future. Visit our website or drop by our office today. Central Texas Electric Co-op, powering homes, empowering communities.
Welcome back to Student Live Student Voices, a production of HC Broadcasting and KNAF AM 910.
What advice would you possibly give a target of bullying? Somebody that's being picked on, somebody that's actually being bullied. What advice could you give them that might help them?
They need to find someone in their life, and that could be a teacher, a parent, a friend, or something that they're comfortable with to discuss what they're going through. Because if the kid only internalizes it and doesn't tell anyone what's going on, what's happening to him, and how it's making him feel, that problem is going to get exponentially worse. Like I said before, it will ultimately affect the mental health of that kid. They need to be able to find someone in their life. It could be a pastor, a coach, anything, where they can relay that, and then it's on us as adults to do things to correct it. When your kid comes home and their kid is your kid's telling you that Johnny or Susie's been bullied and what's going on, that parent needs to pick up the phone and call that Johnny or Susie's parents and say, what's going on? What can we do to help? Who can we alert about this to get this problem resolved?
Yeah, I think a lot of parents also don't realize that this little gadget that's in little Johnny or little Susie's hand, this phone that they have with them that's an appendage now, even for most adults, there's nothing good that comes with this device after midnight. At night.
I'd say 9 o'clock tops.
Maybe 9. Yeah, we might want to cut that back even earlier, because a lot of this bullying and then a lot of cybercrime that targets children happens in their bedroom at night with their devices. And a lot of these kids think they have to know what people are saying about them, so they have to open their phone. Dock these phones at night, parents, and might be the best advice I could give, and leave them. They don't need them after they go to bed.
Well, it's easier for me to speak on it because my wife and I don't have children, but if I did, I wouldn't see any reason for them to have that device much past 7:30, 8 o'clock on any school night. Unfettered access to the internet for a kid is one of the more dangerous things that they can do without having to leave the house. There's entirely too much bad stuff on the internet, entirely too many bad people that are able to get a hold of kids on the internet. And then when we're talking about bullying, there's entirely too many kids that have these devices all the time. And it could be just something as simple as a text, a Facebook, Instagram, and all the other things these kids are on. Snapchat's another one. When those kids get those videos and they're saying mean things about other kids, that's no different than the kid coming up and saying to them in school or class or anywhere actually out in public. It will still affect the mental health of the kid that's having to hear it.
And the big difference is the bully maybe he didn't intend to hurt the person as badly as he did, but he can't see the reaction of that other kid if he's on the phone.
Yes, sir.
He can't see it.
Yeah.
Well, Nick, that's all I really wanted to get with you about this evening, but I would like to have you back because we're gonna start a series about cybercrime and how it affects our kids and some things that we can do about that. And what I may do is come over to Kerrville and do that with you there, so you don't have to drive all the way over here to Gillespie County. But this has been Steve Maxwell with Student Lives, Student Voices. I'm one of the moderators, and this has been Nick Krupa, and we are happy that you listen to us. You continue to listen to 910 AM, and we'll bring you more of Student Lives, Student Voices. Thank you.
In this second half of episode 5, we'll hear the legal definition of bullying from Amy Weiser, the Safe and Supportive School Program Coordinator for Kerrville ISD, as well as a legal checklist of what bullying is and possible interventions. Secondly, we'll share some research about the long-range effects of bullying. Third, Steve Maxwell will share information about one of the most prevalent forms of bullying today, cyberbullying, which also has serious legal implications.
Can you tell us a legal definition of bullying?
Yes. So Texas Education Code identifies it and lays it out as bullying is a single significant act or a pattern of acts by one or more students that's directed at another student, and it exploits an imbalance in power. It affects them physically, or it puts the student in reasonable fear of harm, and it's sufficiently severe, persistent, or pervasive. And so it's going to create an intimidating or threatening or even abusive environment.
Texas State Safety Center has provided the districts with a bullying checklist for schools that we utilize, and it gives us these boxes that we go through, and you check off a yes or no, and it kind of is a flow chart that you go through, and then from that flow list, it determines if it's an act of bullying or cyberbullying by law. And then if it is bullying or cyberbullying by law, the principal must contact the student's parent or legal guardian. And so both are notified when that happens. And so I do like that checklist because there are scenarios, and it really helps break down the law, so that way we make sure that we are serving students and that our definition isn't varied from another school district. We truly are staying in line with what the state's law.
Research also shows that children who bully may also experience bullying themselves, and children who experience bullying struggle with depression, thoughts of self-harm, anxiety, and low self-esteem. Since kids who bully may also be bullied, they may also deal with these issues. Signs that a child may be engaged in bullying behavior are gets into physical and verbal altercations, may be friends with other kids who bully, show signs of becoming increasingly aggressive, have frequent disciplinary problems, may blame others rather than themselves and not take responsibilities for their actions, and are very competitive and focused on popularity. Calling all Eclipse visionaries. Totality Over Texas, based here in Fredericksburg, has all your Eclipse essentials covered. ISO certified Eclipse glasses, commemorative t-shirts, and more, all custom designed with Texas in mind. It's time to get ready for the ultimate celestial spectacle. Visit www.totalityovertx.com and make sure all eyes are on you during the eclipse. That's totalityovertexas.com.
Vogel Tractors is the Texas Hill Country source for pre-owned tractors. They offer new and used implements and attachments for landscaping, tillage, and harvest, as well as small construction machines and attachments. Their inventory includes new equipment from Rhino, Armstrong Ag, Industrious America, Mohawk, Ag Meyer, and more. Every tractor at Vogel's is thoroughly inspected, serviced, and field tested to ensure that they're field ready. Your trade-in is welcomed at Vogel Tractors, and financing options as well as nationwide delivery is available. The Vogels are successful sixth-generation Texas German farmers and ranchers who know what it takes to work the land. So when you need a tractor or a piece of associated equipment, visit your Hill Country neighbors at Vogel Tractors, 12 miles east of Fredericksburg on U.S. Highway 290, or find them online at vogeltractors.com. That's VOGEL tractors.com.
Welcome back to Student Live Student Voices, a production of HC Broadcasting and KNAF AM 910. From a study available in the National Library of Medicine website, criminologists Toffe, Farrington, and Luzzle in 2012 looked at 28 research studies on the long-term effects of bullying as a predictor of later illegal activity. The probability of offending up to 11 years later after getting out of school was much higher for school bullies than for non-involved students, about 2.5 times. Bullying was also a significant risk factor for later offending, even after controlling for other major childhood risk factors. Also, a 2020 article on the effects of bullying in Teen Life magazine by Rebecca Fraser-Thill cited research that showed kids who bullied had an increased effect for negative outcomes. Adults who bullied as children were more likely to have traffic violations, 4 times the rate of criminal behavior than their non-bullying peers, And some research found that 60% of children who bullied other kids in grades 6 through 12 had at least one criminal conviction by age 24 to 35. Studies also showed that former bullies are more likely to carry weapons than non-bullies, and bullies may even be more abusive toward their spouses and children, have a harder time securing and maintaining employment, and are more likely to have children who engage in bullying themselves. Some kids who bully may also be bullied themselves. Bullying behavior indicates that a child may need help developing healthy relationship and better ways of coping with others. Further, the criminologist researchers, Toffe, Farrington, and Lozel, also stated that school bullying is a strong and specific risk factor for later offending. Effective anti-bullying programs should be promoted and could be viewed as a form of early crime prevention. Such programs would have a high benefit to cost ratio. The mainstream articles referenced in this piece relied upon peer-reviewed research for their information. You can find peer-reviewed information about any issue related to health at the National Library of Medicine website. This database is free and available to anyone interested in health topics. If it turns out it doesn't match the legal definition of bullying, are there other alternatives the school is able to help them do to sort of conflict resolve?
Oh, definitely. That is really a good question. There's quite a few different things that school districts can do and put into place. One of course, coming from the mental health background, one of my favorite ones is utilizing the school counselor's responsibility to serve as impartial, non-reporting resource to help them resolve interpersonal conflicts and any discord that may be happening. And so they can sit down with, the school counselor who will not take sides, but will help them use some systems to put in place to be able to resolve that conflict and use those I statements and I feel responses, so that way you can get down to that root. And I know when I was a school counselor, I had many opportunities where I was able to bring in two students and get down to the root of what was really happening or occurring at that time. And so that is one of the great things about school counselors, is that we advocate for students, and and we're teaching them those skills that they need to be able to use for the rest of their life. And so that's one of my favorite. But assistant principals and principals also can utilize other techniques and stuff. And depending on the situation, they may be able to adjust some schedules or look at different interventions or things that can help support that student, so that all parties are being served and protected, and that student that feels like they were targeted and had that mean-spirited event happen, that they're supported and taken care of.
Cool. And
yes, and mainly that they feel safe.
Yes.
It was amazing when I started doing the research on this that there are actually websites for defense lawyers for people that have been bullies and they're being investigated and they've been charged with something. A person who commits cyberbullying or cyber stalking in Texas can face some serious criminal penalties, including substantial incarceration time and some pretty big fines. Young people have always encountered bullying, but bullying that occurs in an electronic format has become more pervasive than ever before. It's common due to the use of texting, messaging, and social media sites, and those are integral parts of social interaction among teens. But what many don't realize is that cyberbullying can lead to criminal charges. A person who engages in cyberbullying can face numerous charges: harassment, stalking, online impersonation. These crimes can occur online and through electronic communications, such as email, texting, messaging, and social media applications in certain situations. The penalties for conviction carry the potential for getting jailed, for incarceration.
And the thing is about being a young person, and Deanna talked a little bit about this, and I think Amy as well, that brain development hasn't fully happened, so they don't think about the long-term potential effects.
Here's when it can follow you for the rest of your life, because it is permanent once it hits the internet.
It's not a simple thing. Once you decide you're going to bully somebody, you could be in for a lot of hurt. A person commits criminal harassment by sending or publishing online repeat electronic communications with the intent and in the manner likely to harass, annoy, alarm, abuse, torment, distress, or even embarrass another. If you initiate communication and then make an obscene comment, threaten or physically harm someone or commit a felony against them, their property, or their family or household member. That's if you say you're going to do it. If you convey a false reporting that someone died or suffered serious bodily injury. Generally, harassment constitutes a Class B misdemeanor, which carries penalties of up to 180 days in jail and a $2,000 fine. But under certain conditions, prosecutors can charge this crime as a Class A misdemeanor. And that includes when the defendant has a previous harassment conviction or intended to pressure a child into committing self-harm. A defendant guilty of a Class A misdemeanor faces up to 1 year in jail and a $4,000 fine. Well, once you're over 17, you're going to be treated as an adult. But there are going to be instances where if you're 14, they can change it to an adult if it's serious enough.
But they can still take you to juvenile court too as well. So yes, it could be juvenile or adult. So
right.
Your age isn't necessarily a defense against your actions. Is that?
That is correct. It's the actions more than the age. Now the age does come into play, but keep in mind, a lot of juniors and seniors out there that are bullies are 17, and they can be tried as an adult even though they're still in high school.
That's been this week's edition of Student Lives, Student Voices.
Joseph Financial Partners is a proud sponsor of Student Life, Student Voices. They offer independent financial advice in stocks, bonds, mutual funds, and insurance. They're here to educate and assist you with all of your financial needs, and they hold themselves to a fiduciary standard, meaning they place your needs above their own. Their mission, to partner with their clients on all of their significant financial decisions by providing independent advice, appropriate education, and extraordinary service, all delivered with the integrity that holds your financial needs above their own. Please visit Joseph Financial Partners at josephfinancialpartners.com and find out why so many have placed their trust in this extraordinary Hill Country financial team. josephfinancialpartners.com.
This is Steve Maxwell, Sales Director here at HC Broadcasting, and I'm careful about giving personal endorsements, but Ken Stopel Ford in Kerrville is a no-brainer. I recommend them without reservation. My wife bought the last truck we purchased from Ken Stopel, and she told me she will never buy from another car dealer. They won't be satisfied until you are happy with the service you receive. That's why Ford Motor Company gave them their President's Award. Ford dealers get this when they meet or exceed customer expectations in every department. They also give back to Hill Country schools and communities. I asked my friend Terry Massey, their general manager, if they would help with our radio show about bullying. He didn't ask me what Ken Stopel would get out of the sponsorship. He just said, sign us up. That's the Stopels I know. The next time you need a vehicle or service, go see the folks that really care about people in the Hill Country. Go see Ken Stopel Ford. Find them at stopelford.com.
We want to make sure that any of our listeners understand help is available from many sources. There is always hope, and nothing is inevitable. There are school counselors, reporting systems at schools, and even help through hotlines such as the 988 system. If you or someone you know is experiencing a mental health crisis, call 988 for assistance, or contact Texas Health and Human Services at 855-937-2372 to talk to a trained professional.
Thank you for listening to Student Lives, Student Voices, brought to you by our sponsors, Ken Stopel Ford, Central Texas Electric Co-op, Totality Over Texas, Vogel Tractors, Joseph Financial Partners, Medical Arts Pharmacy, and Celebrity Care Medical Clinic.